Hello, everybody. Welcome to my new playlist, Game-Based Learning in the World Language Classroom. I'm going to tell you the why, the what, and the how. This is our first section, the why. I'm Madame Sensei. I teach Spanish, French, and Japanese to high schoolers out here in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. And if you want to discuss any of these ideas with me, help me flesh them out, you can reach me at studio-nemo.com. the Minecraft Education Ambassadors, or the Minecraft Teachers Lounge, or the Duolingo Educators Network. And I already have one book out. This is my second book. So the first thing we need to understand is the affective filter. The affective filter is when your students walk in on day one and they say, I sound stupid when I make these weird sounds. I'd better not say anything at all so nobody laughs at me. And so if they don't say anything at all, they're not going to learn to say anything at all. But this is going on inside your students' heads when they walk in the door on day one. And in linguistics terminology, we call this the affective filter. It's that little voice in their head that stops them from taking the first necessary steps of attempting to make an utterance. So that little voice is going to prevent your students from participating in the crucial try-fail cycle. Your number one priority as a teacher is creating an environment that lowers this affective filter so that your students can try and fail and try again. So there's some crucial things you need to know to be successful in language acquisition. The first one is, of course, that repetition is the key to success. And the second most important thing, is that repetition is the key to success. And the third most important thing is that repetition is the key to success. So the big question is, how do we get students to repeat the words ad infinitum and not complain about it and not get bored about it? Well, I believe that the answer lies in games. Games are absolutely perfect for this. When a student's playing a game, they're focusing on winning and abiding by the rules, or maybe bending the rules a little bit. They're not worried about the sounds coming out of their mouth. But of course, it's more than just plopping a game on the desk. You're going to need to have pre-taught the vocabulary to play the game. You need to have sentence frames and word banks and a culture where the students are willing and eager to take risks, and one in which none of their classmates are going to give them a hard time. But wow, this is really magical when you've got a great game going and the students are really engaged in it, and they're just having fun and they're applying the language in a really authentic way. Here's some scaffoldings in my classroom. Here's some cards that I made, and here they're obviously enjoying the game. So my very first year teaching, you need to know my evolution, I guess, as a teacher, how I came to this. My first year teaching, I thought I was so very clever, don't we all, right? So my building said, hey, the last day of school, you have to give a final exam. Well, okay, that sounds normal. I don't like multiple choice tests because when are you ever going to be walking down the street in Japan and somebody walks up to you and says, how are you doing? A, good. B, so-so. C, bad. No, you're never going to have multiple choice in real life. So I don't like that. So what kind of exam can I give my kids? I know, I'm so clever. I'm going to write out the questions as if I'm having a conversation, and they'll give me answers. And it'll be just like we're having a conversation, but on paper. And whoa, I am like brilliant, right? No, I'm not brilliant. Okay, because I was still grading papers at 10 p.m. that night, and I was still grading papers the next morning, and this was the last day of school, so there weren't any students back in the classroom, right? And they weren't as good as I thought they should have been. And I came upon one student. She totally, completely bombed the final exam. If she didn't get at least a D, she was going to fail the class. And that today was the last day of school. I wasn't going to see her again. There was no way for her to recover. Now, this girl wasn't a bad student. She participated in class, she did the stuff I asked. She just didn't have any confidence in her language abilities. And again, that's that affective filter I was talking about. So even after 9 months of me just cheering her on. Come on, you could do this. She was a cheerleader, and yet I couldn't cheer her on. She just never did well on tests, just always had test anxiety, and yeah, her assignments were okay, but I have to stress, she participated in class. She was a good kid. She just needed a little more time. She needed a little more practice, and the paper test wasn't going to give her that. So it was 10 a.m. on the teacher workday, and I waited until 10 a.m. So, okay, it's the day after school. They're not going to be getting up at 6 a.m. like they normally do. So I waited until 10 a.m. and called home, and she still wasn't awake. And I had her mother wake her up, and I'm like on the phone, please just give me some indication that you understood what I was asking on the test. And it was pulling teeth. It was, could you just give me a rudimentary answer, okay? Because I don't want you to fail the class, and I know you got this. You just don't take tests very well. For my second year teaching, I was like, yeah, I've had enough of this. Learning a language should not be like pulling teeth. It's supposed to be fun. You're supposed to be this feel of sense of accomplishment when you're able to communicate successfully. You need to be able to apply what you learned. And paper tests just weren't doing it for me. So what better way to apply what you learned than in the context of a game or in the context of a project that you're immersing yourself in, and projects feel very game-like, and we're going to be talking about those too. So what I do nowadays is a game. Okay, so learning a language is a progressive skill. You cannot stay up all night and cram and wake up the next morning fluent in Spanish. Doesn't work that way. You got to work on it little by little. So in order to apply our skills in a game, first I have to tell the students how to play the game. I have to teach the students how to play the game. We have to practice playing the game. We have to practice the vocabulary that we need to play the game so that the students can play it solidly and strategically in the target language. And on the big day, I walk around with a clipboard with all their names on it, and I just eavesdrop. And that's just, they're applying the language. What more do you want? Okay. Sometimes it's not a game, sometimes it's a project, but you can better believe that I try my darndest to make it fun. So this new book that I've got, and this video series that's going to walk you through the book, it's a collection of games that I've made, and many of them are going to be familiar skins to stuff that you know and love. I mean, here's Jenga. We gamified it. Oh, we write songs in my class. Here's Uno. Here's a bunch of dice game. Okay, here's Scrabble, obviously. You'll be familiar with all the games. They're mostly just skins for how to apply the language. Okay, and it's also going to contain activities which feel like a game, but aren't actually games. I cannot tell you, I have to stifle evil laughter every single time I tell my students, putting on tableau blanc a marker, or, take out a whiteboard and a marker, and my students are like, hooray, I love whiteboard games. And I'm secretly to myself, I'm like, bwahaha, this is just drill and kill. You just think it's a game. So yay for that. Okay, we're going to talk about online games, how to leverage them in class. There's a lot of good stuff online, but golly, when the kids come in my class, I don't want them sitting behind a computer screen. I want them talking to each other. So, and you know already that I'm highly involved in the Minecraft education ambassadors. So I'm going to show you how to use a game in class so that your students are still communicating with each other. Oh, and you also know I'm very involved in Duolingo. Okay, yeah, we'll talk about all that. Later on, I'm going to talk about project-based learning. It's not a game per se, but the project you choose should hopefully be fun. So we're going to throw that discussion in here too. Project-based, and I should also say action-oriented learning for those of you doing the CEFR standards. So in our next episode, we're going to look at 21st century skills and why game-based learning fits perfectly in with this. Hope to see you there.